Hello everyone, welcome to session 4. In this session we will be looking at research and more specifically on international market research. Our key learning objectives in this session: 1. Understand the research process. Have an overview of the research process. Number 2, recognize screening and evaluation decisions and also understand the impact or the role of marketing research or international marketing research in formulating strategy, and look at some of the key challenges that you might face when we start doing market research. I'm sure most of you all have a good idea of market research is, whether it's marketing related or any other subject, any other discipline. Market research is all about gathering information and processing that information for decision making. So whatever field that you are in, it is important when you formulate plans for your month, for your year, for your short term, long term. When you plan, you need information. So the job or role the market research plays is that to provide information for your decision making. So business environments are becoming increasingly complex. That's something that we all agree on. 100 years ago, the business environment wasn't as complex and busy as today. You had simple products and services, one or two suppliers in a market, and it was basically satisfying as many customers as possible. So the demand was much greater than the supply. At that point, the markets weren't complex, working in very simple, straightforward ways, and you did not have bond issues, hedging to various kinds of financial instruments, and most of the commodities are monetized through different instruments. You didn't have all these things. Market research therefore provides information to make decisions, looking into these markets, looking at what's going on, and giving these decision makers a pool of information so they can base their decisions on a very solid platform. So global managers need a great understanding of new markets because they are not only dealing with their home or native market, but they are operating on a much wider scope, and the chances of these markets becoming volatile is far greater than one single market. So what is the role that we are talking about? The decision maker needs great understanding of new markets. So you need inputs for decision making. So that's what market research does. Market research effectively collect information from these markets, the specific markets, bring the information in and assess, evaluate, process this information and provide it for the decision maker. So we can define market research as a systematic and objective approach to investigate a specific problem, to investigate a certain or fulfill a certain information need that you may have around a specific problem. So it is a process which consists of a series of well thought out and carefully planned and executed activities. that helps you to inquire, investigate, and examine a problem by collecting information so that we can process this information for us to come to sound decisions or make sound arguments of this situation. How does this process work? First, you need to establish the need for information. Why or what are you looking for? What is the market? In that particular market, what is the information? What are the pieces of information that you're looking for? Specify research objectives. We are going to look at the behavioral patterns in using shampoos and conditioners in the age groups of X to Y or 15 to 21 in this particular market amongst females. Determine the research design. How are you going to conduct this research? On what basis? Develop data collection procedure. This is how we are going to collect data. We are going to have an online questionnaire. We might give coupons. We will do a mall research. We will do an institutional research, etc., etc. And then you design a sample of people whom you're going to do this research on. Collect data, process, analyze, and then present your research results. I'm sure I don't need to dwell a lot on this. You have primary data and then you have secondary data. Primary data is basically collected for that particular purpose, but secondary data is data collected for other requirements but available to you for your research purposes. So of secondary data, you will have some internal data which is ready to use or require processing. You have facts and figures, but you may have to process them the way you want to. And the other secondary data inputs will come from the external sources like published materials, trade publications, databases, or syndicated services. And also, I'm sure that you have heard these two words, qualitative and quantitative, subjective versus very objective kind of inputs. Qualitative data is where you're looking at more elaborate answers, small number you're interviewing or representative cases, but very unstructured kind of interviews where you're looking at more qualitative data. You are basically looking at into more insights rather than just the numbers, versus when you look at quantitative research, you are trying to look at the numbers. Example, using shampoo, a 15 to 21-year-old, between that age group, how many times a day would you use shampoo, or how many times a week would you use shampoo and conditioner? That's quantitative research. But what is your preference? Would you like a lime blast? Would you like more mint flavored or mint smelling? Or would you like fruity shampoos and conditioners? These are qualitative research that need to be answered with unstructured data collection methods. You can have different types of survey methods. Telephone. I don't know whether any of you have got any calls from various institutions asking for information, asking your permission to ask a few questions, get you to answer a few questions. Some people visit houses, in-home, interviewing people with maybe samples or without samples. Mall intercept. At the mall there are people with documents, books, asking you questions. That also could be computer assisted interviewing. You can have mails, through email or web-based. Different types of survey methods are open to you based on what you want to do, how you design your research methodology. How do you report the findings? Now, when you report the findings, first and foremost, you need to consider the audience. The report, it has to be clear, define terms, and use whatever presentation methods that would be best to carry this information from your end to the audience who's expecting this information. The report must be around the agreed objectives, the research objectives. Should be very clear in terms of reporting, not what you want to hear, but what is there actually, the findings. Concise and complete, and if you can avoid the use of jargon and make it as simple as possible, this is the better way of presenting it. Here I have given you the report format in case you are asked to produce a report, a research report at your exam. You can follow this format with an introduction, methodology, and conclusions and recommendations. And if there are any appendices that you would like to annex, such as some of the comments, some of the quotes, the research methodologies, the numbers, some of the numbers which would have come, some issues you could have faced, all these things could be in the appendices.